In a discussion forum, I heard someone mention a game called Photon Galactic Traders, and I was immediately interested because it's a great title for a game. At least it's a great title for a game for someone like me who's interested in space, and it had sort of, I don't know, something about it had a kind of campy feel. And indeed, I'm going to show you the back of the rule book with this great little piece of art that does give some sense of, I guess, part of the feel behind the game, although to be honest, when you're playing it, the campiness doesn't really come out. You're looking here at the basic layout of the game. It's a map really of the ship that you are commanding as you move through space. You are a trading ship with some cargo, and you're attempting to deliver that cargo somewhere. And throughout the course of your travels, you will be encountering various obstacles in the form of these pirates, and they will be attacking you at various areas of the ship. You can see we're under attack here, here, and here as well. And you are scrambling to manage your resources, to deflect the attacks if you can, to do counterattacks if possible on your own, and then of course to repair. These are cards that indicate needing repair. To repair using some mech droids that you have some of your systems that may be damaged. And there's always a sense of needing to do a little bit more than you possibly can, especially as the game gets going, which of course is a great thing in a game because it provides the tension. The way the game is set up is through these cards that you lay down. Just pull one up here. This is, for example, your shield generator card at its fully operational stage, and it explains to you the impact of what it means to be fully operational. In this case, it has to do with how you can recharge your shields. If you are hit or damaged, it will then tell you what the impact of that is, and this word engineering here has to do with who in the crew is impacted, and we'll get to the crew in a moment. And then if it's further damaged, it becomes totally offline, and this is the impact there. You can get it back online if you use a mech droid to help you do that, but at a certain point, you could be so damaged that the game would be over. Here, for example, is another indicator in the middle of your ship, your cargo hold, and what this means when it is fully operational and when it becomes damaged, what happens. What this means is going to impact how much money you get at the end, because the cargo counter space is kind of tracking the progress of your cargo, whether it is decaying or rotting or being stolen or whatever. And if that gets to 0 before you have gotten to your destination, that's one of the ways you can possibly lose the game. And here's the indication of what will happen if it's totally offline. Missiles and lasers are your primary offensive cards or capabilities, and with a fully operational missile, it's telling you how many attack dice that you can roll, where you can attack. In this case, it's any arc, and you can only do this once per round. If it becomes damaged, you're down an attack die, although you still have the flexibility of protecting anywhere on your ship. The lasers that you have, on the other hand, here I've got a damaged laser here, and I'm sending this mech droid, hopefully, this is the mech droid here, if you can see it, not really, to fix it. My lasers right now are damaged, which means I can only roll one attack die. Now, lasers in any case can only be attacking in your 4 arc, no matter what. If I had been fully operational, I would be able to roll my 2 attack die. Again, looking here at the bottom, when you have a system that's damaged, it's going to impact one of your officers as well. And let's take a look at them here. So this is the ship itself, and then you've got here for the rest of the to play the game. You are provided with a crew of 4 for each ship you have, and we'll show you what they are. So each crew is comprised of somebody who's working on tactical, science officers, navigation, and engineering. And as I showed you, certain systems are tied to certain of the crew. So for example, the lasers are associated with the tactical crew member, and he's got a value here of 5. So if you are going to be firing your lasers, you're going to roll a dice, and at least, if say you're rolling 2 dice, the roll of at least one of them has to be equal to or greater than the laser skill of the tactical officer, and if it is, then that will be a successful attack. You can see here that there are 2 sides to the cards, and the stressed side is the side that will result when something has happened and the system is damaged. So in this case, for example, the lasers need a roll, if it's unstressed, the lasers need a roll of 5 or 6 to succeed. But look, when he's stressed, we would need a roll of 7. Now we're rolling a d6, so without any modifiers, you can see that not much is going to be able to happen if our tactical officer is stressed until we can get him de-stressed, basically. And to do that, we have an opportunity in a certain phase of the game to roll this cool number. So we would need to be rolling here a 5 or a 6 to get him back to his normal state. Managing this power supply is key to the game because each of these areas controls something on the ship, and you only have, if you're doing full capacity, you have 2 reactors, port and starboard, and they each give you 2 power. So you have a total of 4 active power slots. But of course, if something becomes damaged, like here's your port reactor, for example, at fully operational, it is generating 2 power. But if it would become damaged, then you would be generating 1 power. And then, of course, if it's totally offline, it doesn't generate any. So you have at start 4 power, and you can also, through excuse me, a roll with one of your crew members, potentially increase that. But basically you're working with 4 slots, and each of these slots will control something. So for example, if you have both engines running, you will be able to run at maximum capacity in terms of how many spaces through the map you can travel, which would be a maximum of 2 on the star map. So you can see the star map up here, and you're trying to get to your destination. So if you only had, for example, 1 engine running, you could only run 1 space. And there are some other effects in play there with those. The shields are very, very important because they control the flow of power to your shield systems, and when they are powered, it allows you to use those shield systems to make a shield roll to basically deflect an attack. So a shield roll would not be allowed if you had those unpowered. You don't have any protection, basically, even if the shields are charged. And this is another thing that has to do with shields. The shield generator, these should really be next to each other. The shield generator is separate from the shield power. The shield generator refers to how successful you can be when you're trying to recharge your shields, and if this will indicate whether the shields are at full, half, or critical, or totally depleted. And this number here above the indicator is what you need to roll equal to or above to successfully have your shields work. So obviously, if they're at full on a d6, you have a pretty good chance of deflecting with a roll of 2 or above. If you're at critical, not so good. And here they are at, what do they call this, half, I guess. So in order to repair or change this shield charge in that phase of the game, your shield generator must be at on, and this is separate from whether or not the shields themselves are getting power. So you can see that there's a lot of management involved. Weapons, if your weapons are off, you cannot use your missiles or your lasers at all to do attacks, so these need to be on. Scanners refer to long-range scan, which is basically looking ahead in the pile of your pirates that are coming in to see what's coming and to possibly put one of the cards at the bottom of the deck if you don't like what it is. So that is what your scanners are used for. And the reserve power has to do with how much you can recharge your reserve battery here, which is up here, during that phase of the game. So, for example, this shield generator is in the off position right now. This will determine how much our shield charge can recover itself from turn to turn. And right now, our shields are at half power because of something that happened. So if I want to be able to get back to full power or move this in any way, I need my shield generator on. Well, I do want to do that, but in order to do that, I only have 4 available power slots, so I have to make a decision here about what I am going to be turning off. If I turn my weapons power off, I will not be able to use my lasers or my missiles, so I don't want to do that. If I turn my shields off, I won't be able to use shield protection. I definitely don't want to do that. So I'm down to thinking about turning off one of my engines. What this will do is reduce the amount I can travel. So I would not, for example, be able to travel 2 spaces. I would only be able to travel 1 if I only had 1 active engine. And I think that's what I'm going to do. Even though every time you're traveling, it does increase the danger, I think it is important for me to be able to get this shield value back up to full. The reason I want to do that is you see these numbers up here. This is involving the shield roll, and you do a shield roll when you are under attack from a pirate to see whether the attack can be deflected or not, and you need to roll better than the number that you see here. So obviously, if your shields are at full, you have a pretty good chance on a d6 of rolling a 2 or better, and it continues down from there. So I really do want to be able to move that shield charge, but I won't be able to do it if my shield generator is off. So this is how this will work. I'm going to move this, so I'll take this down here. Everything is going to get moved over, and I need to turn something off. Excuse me, that's not the right way to do it. Here we're doing this. Moving this down here, taking this here, switching them. So I'm turning my shield generator to the on position, and I'm taking my engines temporarily offline. And so without increasing any power, I still have my 4 power slots, and now my shield generator is on so that when it comes time, I will be able to recharge my shields. Let's talk sequence of play here. The first phase is the crew phase, and while you don't do this the first turn of the game, you do this on every other turn. What you're doing here is you are first attempting to increase your power. So I mentioned a default power, if both your reactors are fully operational, would be 4 power slots, 2 on, but you can attempt, based on your engineer's power value, to increase the power. So there's a lot of different characters that you can play in the game. So here's an engineer that I'm not playing with, but you'll see that they all have a value here, a piloting value, and he's a grade 6. The engineer that we are using in this game has a piloting value of grade 5, and there are other values here on the various engineers. You get the point. So to increase power, what you're going to do is you're going to roll a d6, and if you roll equal to or more than the power skill, you can increase the power by 1. So for example, for this turn, if I rolled a 5 or a 6 with who I'm playing with, I could turn this to the on section. That would give me a little bit more to work with. So that is what you can do. If the reactors are not, if they're offline, you can't really do anything. There's nothing for them to work on. They have to be fixed, but this is one of the options that you have. Then you can possibly take initiative action. So every crew member has an initiative stat. So for example, here's another crew member we're not using. This is a science officer, and it's that number in red. His initiative is 4. And for example, well, some people do not have initiative, like this navigator here has no initiative. That's the U value. But what you can do is you can roll on the initiative value based on the number of pirates that are in play. So for example, if there are 3 pirates in play and you have an initiative value less than or equal to that, you would be able to take some initiative, and the initiative are actions like assigning a mech droid to repairing a system, or you can lock on a target, which is taking one of these power lock things and adding it to a pirate, and it will give you a +1 on your die roll, as you can see there. There is the tactical officer could also fire a laser. So it's dependent on how many pirates can be in play around the ship, and then that value. So that's the first phase of the turn, and in some cases you won't be able to do anything. The main phase, well, I shouldn't say the main phase, but a large phase is phase 2. That's your action phase, and you get 5 actions per turn. This is a little bit messed up here, and you're marking them off here. And we've talked about some of the actions already. There are such as firing lasers at the pirates, missiles, the target lock I just mentioned, which is taking one of these locks here and adding it to one of the pirates, so that when you do your attack roll you get a positive modifier. That's going to help you out. That is an action that can be taken. You can do a scan. We already talked about that. That's looking ahead at the pirate deck to see what is coming and perhaps moving it to the bottom of the deck. You can change your speed, and there's basically 3 different, well, there's 0, 1, and 2 speeds, and then there's also whether you're running with a normal speed or evasive speed, and you must be on evasive speed in order to attempt an evade action when you are attacked. So changing that around is an option. The main point of actions, I already showed you in some detail, sorry about that, is changing the priorities of the power. And this is really, as I said earlier, the heart of the game, so I won't go back over that again, but manipulating this and the attached systems that are going to be able to be used in the available slots of power is really key to the game. You also can be assigning mech droids to repair damaged systems and activating reserve batteries and some other things like that. But those are the main actions of the game, and that's phase 2 of the turn. Then phase 3 is called CMR, which is charge, remove, and repair. And what that means is you can then, if your shield generator is on power, you can then increase your shield charge level. And I talked about that earlier in terms of what that means. You can also activate the reserve battery if your reserve is on, and in this case it's not. And if your scanners are powered, you can take the target lock counters, which are on the pirate cards, and move them and basically upgrade them. So if you've placed a partial lock, such as this, and you are set to go for charging, you can upgrade it to a full lock, which is +2 on the die roll. So you can kind of set yourself up. You can then move, and there are various speeds. And where are you moving? Well, we're going to look here at the star map a little more closely. I apologize for the glare here. This is where you are traveling. You're starting in this world, and you're attempting to make it all the way to the end and dock here. You cannot dock if there are any hostile pirates around your ship. That's important to remember. And as you move through, you need to be pulling in pirate cards equal to the value of what you are either landing on or passing through. So this is how you're bringing in the danger that is going to be affecting you and impacting you, and you do that in the move phase. And then you are going to be repairing. So if you have assigned, previously assigned, say, a mech droid to repair a system, you can flip that over and it will no longer be damaged. If it is assigned, if you have a system that's offline and the mech droid is working on it, then it comes in as damage. So it's kind of like a step-up mechanism. And you can have more than one mech droid working on a system. So if a system is totally offline and you have 2 mech droids, you can step it up twice. So basically moving it from damage to fully repaired. But if you only have one, you're going to have to wait. So that is the what's called the CMR, charge, remove, and repair phase. Then come the pirate phase, when the pirates are making their attacks. And as the rules in the book say, there's not much you can do except sit back and take it. And that's one of the things about the game. I think that feels a little bit static to me, because you can't really do anything. You just have to accept the fact that you're going to be getting attacked. And the way it works is, when you have a pirate card that comes in, I've got them actually all, they should be face down. This got a little bit messed up. Thanks to one of my kids, probably. When it comes in, we'll take a look at this pirate card here. You'll see the position of where it will be attacking. So this is going to be placed somewhere in the forefront of your ship, and then you're rolling a d6 to determine exactly where. And well, why does it make a difference? It makes a difference because wherever this lines up, that is going to be the system along this axis that gets attacked. So if I rolled a 5, and my missiles were fully operational, this would be the site of the attack. Now, you can defend yourself against the attack. You can have your shields absorb attacks if you successfully have a die roll to have that work. You can't do that, for example, if the shields are uncharged. So this is where the management of these systems that I talked about earlier comes into play, because you want to keep these shields charged as high as possible. So potentially you could roll, so potentially you could roll a 4, 5, or 6 at half shield strength to deflect that attack. You could also try to evade the attack. Now, in order to evade, your speed, you must have previously set up to be on evasion, and you must, in order to evade, do a roll, and you must roll more or equal to or greater than your navigator's evasion skill. So if that works, so for example, here's our navigator, and we have an evasion skill of 6 here, so not so great. We would have to roll a 6 in order to evade, and again, we would have to previously have been set up to do that. So you have that possibility as well. And if you can't do that, then you're going to get hit, and you're just sort of automatically going to get hit. They just automatically hit you if you don't do one of the other two things I said. And what you would do if you got hit here, you would turn your missiles from fully operational to damaged, and you would see as the penalty there in the future until they're repaired, you could only roll 1 attack die instead of 2. So that would be the result of that hit. So that is the pirate attacking phase of the turn. And the final phase of each turn is called the end phase, and in the end phase, you have to do a couple of things. One is you need to look and see if you're being attacked by any pirates that are also scouts. And you can tell a pirate is a scout because it says quite clearly on the pirate card that it is a scout. So it will be, for example, here is the Nexus Scout, and it will also have that S indicated there. So if there are scouts in play, you have to roll a die for all the clans that has a scout in play. This icon here, there's some descriptive text in the rules, which is actually kind of nice, although in the end I don't think the pirates are differentiated that much. But this little icon here is indicating a clan of pirates, and there are various icons here, and what this will mean is that if you have a scout, for example, out, and you have other clan members attacking you as well, you need to roll a die for every clan that has at least one scout, and then draw another pirate card and put it into play if you roll a 6. So it's basically like they are scouting for you and bringing in other members. So that will have to happen if you have scouts that are attacking you as part 1 of the last phase of the turn. Then you can reset your power level. So for example, if you had done a successful increase in power, if your engineer had successfully increased, say, to give you 5 power for that turn, you would have to or if you did the reserve battery to do that, you'd have to go back to wherever you normally were, because that effect is only good for 1 turn. You reset your target lock counters if you had them, and we talked briefly about what happens to make one of your crew members stressed, and this is where you would attempt the roll to de-stress the pilot by rolling greater than or equal to their stress value. And then finally, you're going to be moving this round counter 1 more space ahead. And that's the sequence of play. Victory in the game is calculated by various, it's a score basically. So you're going to be getting a pay based on the amount shown on the cargo track. So that's why you need to keep that cargo as active and alive as possible. You could potentially get an early arrival bonus, a bounty for each hostile pirate that you had destroyed. I think I kind of glossed over this, but there are both hostile and neutral pirates. So you can be getting pluses for hostile pirates that you kill and neutrals for, or I should say negatives for neutral pirates. And this becomes significant because it does give some a strategy in the sense that you don't necessarily automatically want to be killing every pirate that you encounter. So for example, here is a neutral pirate and you may decide to try to just kind of leave that one alone because you don't want the negative coming in for that. And you need to pay some repair costs if you come in with damaged or offline systems, and then you get a total, and that's your total. So really, to sort of see how you're doing in the game, you have to play it more than once. And I don't love that as a victory condition for any game, really, but it is what it is here, and that's how the game ends. Overall, I think I'll just talk, well, actually, I'm open to this page, so let me just talk about the rule book for a second. The rules themselves, in terms of the content, I think are very clear, actually. It's not a very complicated game, and the rules are laid out clearly in the rule book, and they are also reiterated very nicely on the relevant cards so that you don't really need to refer too much to the rule book when you're actually in play. That's a good thing. The thing that I think was a little bit of a misfire here, but I get the idea behind it, was that the designer wanted to have this technical manual, this Photon Galactic Trader's technical manual that starts on page 17 of the rulebook, and really what that is actual description of the details of the rules. So at the very beginning, up until that, you're just told, for example, these are all your actions, but they're not described for you until here. So it's basically pages 17 until, it almost gets to 45. I mean, there's some flavor text here at the end. But the challenge is these pages, while they are actually numbered, they're not numbered, because if you need to look up an action, you only know it's in section A. So it gets a little bit, I was sort of frustrated by that. And I think that while I get the concept and it's a nice little idea that you have a technical manual, I think it should be placed just sequentially so that when you are told initially what your actions are, they're all described right here. At the very least, if they're not described, it needs to tell you, what does acquire target lock mean? Well, turn to page, 35 or whatever. That would help immensely with that. But in terms of the text itself, it's quite clear, and once you get it out on the table, not a problem at all. I think the art direction and the artwork is lovely and thematic. I don't know, there's not a separate credit, so I don't know. Chris Alton is the only name that I can see as involved in designing this game, so I'm going to assume that the art is also his. It is, I think, pleasant, and it gives this, a little bit of a comic-ish feel. I mentioned earlier in the context of the rule book with this fellow here on the back, I'll show you him one more time because I like him. I don't get so much this feel when I'm playing, but it's more, the gameplay is more sort of management of these systems and making decisions about what is going to happen next turn. I think one of the best things about the game is the cyclical aspect of the actions that you take in one phase of the turn are going to impact what you can do at sort of the beginning of the next phases of the turn and where you will be set up to defend and attack, and you have to kind of anticipate a little bit, and the connection between the turns in that way works quite nicely, because sometimes when you're playing a game, particularly some solo games that can be very procedural, it's like you go A to Z and then it's like you just start right back over again and there's no linkage here. here, what you're doing in terms of managing your systems and what you are choosing to power and what you are choosing to allocate assets to in one turn really affects what you're able to do in the next turn. And that, I think, is the best part of the game and where it really shines. I found this an enjoyable play. Playtime is listed as 60 minutes. I think, actually, I played it shorter than that once I understood what the rules are. You can kind of get going in it, and also if you're choosing to move a little more quickly through the star map, that can speed play. Of course, more pirates come in there, so that could take some time, but the playtime is not too long. You wouldn't want it really more than an hour, and I certainly don't think that it is. So those are my thoughts on Photon Galactic Traders. If you are interested in a theme of resource management of a spaceship and being sort of attacked by pirates as you're traveling through space, you'll enjoy this. One other point I would add, something that I would have liked that I didn't see is a little more variety in excuse me, all the art, by the way, on the pirates is unique, but the impact of what the pirates do is not. I don't know how many different options there are, but there are a number of different effects that the pirates will have when they attack, but they repeat themselves. So that can get a little bit much, and there aren't other events as you're traveling through. I sort of missed or wish that there were some other events. I don't know what they would be, maybe an asteroid storm or something like that that would come in to impact your systems rather than just the attack from the pirates. I think that could have added a little bit of variety to the game, but basically you are just at each turn encountering these pirates around your ship and having to deal with the effects, and there are no other events beyond that. So that is a look at Photon Galactic Traders, a really well put together, tightly designed P&P game from Chris Alton. Chris Alton sent me a copy of this game. I asked him for one, and I made him no promises about what I would say in this video. I don't know him, and our only contact was in the email exchange about sending me the game, but I expressed interest, and he supplied me with an extra copy of the game he had lying around, and I thank him for that. Thanks for watching.